A woman drives her school bus down the same quiet country road every single morning, picking up children in a small Ohio town where everybody knows everybody. One day, a letter shows up in her mailbox. No return address. Just a postmark from a city an hour away. Inside, in bold block handwriting, is an accusation about her personal life that only someone watching her very closely could possibly know. She thinks it's a cruel joke. She's wrong. That letter is only the beginning. Over the next 18 years, hundreds of these letters will terrorize an entire town. A man will end up dead under circumstances his own family never accepted. Another man will spend a decade in prison for a crime he swore until his final breath that he didn't commit. And the person actually holding the pen has never, not once, been identified. This is the story of the Circleville Letters. It started in the summer of 1976 in Circleville, Ohio, a small town where a school superintendent named Gordon Massey received an anonymous letter accusing him of having affairs with several of the district's female bus drivers. A few days later, more letters arrived, this time sent to the school board itself, pushing them to investigate Massey. Then the letters turned toward a specific target, Mary Gillespie, a school bus driver in the district, who received a letter accusing her of having an affair with Massey. "Stay away from Massey," it warned her. "I know where you live." Within just over a week, Mary got another one. She said nothing to anyone at first, too unsettled and embarrassed to bring it up. But then her husband, Ron, received a letter of his own, this one far more direct, warning that if he didn't put a stop to his wife's supposed affair, his life would be in danger. The couple quietly told only 3 people what was happening: Ron's sister, her husband Paul Fresher, and Paul's sister. They hoped that keeping it contained would make it stop. It didn't. Within weeks, the letter writer escalated, threatening to broadcast the affair accusations publicly over local radios, on billboards, wherever it would cause the most damage. The letters kept coming, month after month, filled with intimate details about the Gillespie family's daily lives. Details that made it clear whoever was writing them was watching, closely and constantly. Then, on August 19, 1977, the phone rang at the Gillespie house. Ron answered. According to his children, who were present, he told them it was the letter writer, confirming who they were. Ron grabbed his gun and drove off to confront them directly. He never made it. Within a short distance, at an intersection he knew well, his car went off the road and struck a tree. He was found dead about 50 minutes later. The local coroner ruled it an accident, but his family never accepted that explanation. Paul Fresher, Ron's brother-in-law, became convinced for the rest of his life that Ron had been murdered, and he spent years pushing the sheriff's office to reopen the investigation into his death. Even after Ron's death, the letters didn't stop. If anything, they grew bolder, continuing to target Mary, now a widow, and Gordon Massey, taunting them both. "Everyone knows what you have done," one letter read. "If you don't believe us, just make them mad and find out for yourself." Then, in February of 1983, the case took a genuinely dangerous turn. Mary was driving her usual bus route when she spotted a sign near a fence along the road, accusing Gordon Massey of assaulting the Gillespie's daughter. Furious and shaken, she stopped to tear it down, and that's when she noticed the sign was attached to a small wooden box. She brought the box home, and when she opened it, her blood ran cold. Inside was a loaded .25 caliber pistol, rigged so that it would fire the moment the box was opened. It was, in every sense, a booby trap built to kill her. She immediately brought it to the police. Investigators traced the gun's serial number and the trail led to Paul Fresher, Ron's own brother-in-law. The man Mary and her husband had trusted enough to tell about the letters in the very beginning. Fresher insisted the gun had been stolen from his garage weeks earlier, and that he had absolutely nothing to do with the letters or the trap. In October of 1983, Paul Fresher stood trial, not for writing the letters themselves, but for the attempted murder of Mary Gillespie using that booby trap device. It was, by most accounts, a surprisingly weak case. There was no physical evidence directly tying him to the gun or the trap itself, and he had an alibi for a significant part of the afternoon when the device would have needed to be placed. What ultimately convicted him was handwriting analysis. 2 document examiners testified that the writing on the anonymous letters sent to Mary matched Fresher's own hand. That method has since drawn criticism, since Fresher was reportedly asked to copy one of the actual letters directly, rather than provide independent samples of his own natural handwriting, a technique that isn't considered reliable forensic practice. Still, the jury convicted him, and he was sentenced to prison for attempted murder. Here's where the case takes its strangest turn. While Paul Fresher sat in prison, stripped of any access to pens or paper, the letters kept coming. Recipients around Circleville continued receiving the same distinctive block handwriting, the same eerie, all-knowing tone. Even Fresher himself received one while incarcerated, reading in part, "Now when are you going to believe you aren't getting out of there? I told you 2 years ago when we set them up, they stay set up." If Fresher truly had no way to write or mail anything from inside prison, the obvious question became unavoidable. Who was still sending them? Former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole, reviewing the case years later, pointed out the same troubling logic. If letters keep arriving while your prime suspect sits behind bars with no access to writing materials, somebody else has to be writing them. They don't appear by magic. Fresher served 10 years before finally being released on parole in May of 1994. And that same year, after nearly 2 full decades of terror, the letters abruptly stopped. That timing has always been the strongest argument pointing back toward Fresher's guilt, the letters ending almost exactly when he regained his freedom. But it's also the detail that people who believe he was innocent find hardest to explain away, since it doesn't account for the letters that were sent while he had no possible way to send them himself. Adding another layer of confusion, when investigators looked more closely at the day the booby trap was placed, they uncovered a detail that was never raised at Fresher's trial. Another bus driver told Mary Gillespie that she had passed through that same intersection roughly 20 minutes before the trap was found, and had seen a large man with sandy hair standing beside a yellow El Camino, seemingly trying to avoid being seen. That description didn't match Paul Fresher at all, and this lead was reportedly never followed up on by investigators at the time. Paul Fresher was never actually charged with writing the letters themselves, only with the attempted murder connected to the booby trap. He maintained his innocence for the rest of his life, right up until his death in 2012, insisting that someone else, someone who was never caught, had been behind the entire 18-year campaign. In 1994, while producers for the television show Unsolved Mysteries were filming a segment about the case, they received a postcard at their own production office, apparently from the letter writer, warning them to leave Circleville alone and not to interfere with the sheriff's investigation. Decades later, the Circleville letters remain one of the strangest, most disputed cold cases in American history. A small town torn apart by a stranger who seemed to know absolutely everything about everyone. A death that was never fully explained, a conviction some experts still question, and a mystery that, even with a man tried and imprisoned for it, was never truly solved. If this story left you as unsettled as it left the people of Circleville, hit that like button, Tell me who you think was really behind the letters in the comments. Share this with someone who loves a real unsolved mystery. And subscribe for more true stories just like this one.